Hello there, Fur the Fan friends, and welcome to this week's episode of Fur Paints the Wall. No, today we're not doing any of that type of stuff. Today we are doing our second video of the week. What do I mean by second video of the week? Well, we spent this past week creating a video for you. And after we began editing that video and putting all the pieces and things together, we were not happy with the results of the video. So I pretty much scrapped that video. You're going to see parts of it later, but we actually jumped the gun just a little. I jumped the gun just a little bit in trying to get part of our trailer put together without doing the necessary underlying stuff that needs to be done. I'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but first, we had a question from one of our favorite viewers. That question is, on the outside of your shop, when you were painting, I saw something that looked like a scarecrow. Do you have a scarecrow in your yard? Are you protecting plants? I said, no, but I do have a rubber palm tree. A rubber palm tree? Yeah, I made a palm tree out of rubber. Let's go take a look at it. All right, Fur the Fan friends, as you can see here, we have a rubber palm tree. What is a rubber palm tree? Well, I had one of my trees die. So this right here is a true tree trunk. And I didn't want to just cut it down. So, and I had 3 tires left over from one of my vehicles. So what did I do? I cut the tires in half, and then I just kind of cut them into look like palm fronds. So here, my friends, is one of my favorite trees. I don't have to water it. I don't have to do anything. It won't overgrow. It's a perfect little desert tree. So it's not a scarecrow, it's a rubber palm tree. Let's get back to work. As you can see in our shop, we have our table saw out with a blade at a very scary angle. We have our joiner. We have our bandsaw. We have sawdust all over the floor. We have a bunch of clamps. And we have strips of wood. Do you know what we're going to do today? That's right. Those of you who have been watching us for over the last year, rebuild this little camper. You know that it took a lot of strips of wood, glue, clamps, sawdust, and a lot of different machines to do what we call glue lamination. We knew at one time we was going to have to come back to do some glue laminating. Just wasn't sure it was going to be this week. Let's go over to the back of our trailer and I'll show you what part we're working on now. The first video that I started at the first of this week and edited it and didn't like any of it, it showed me starting to introduce adding a beam across here and adding our rolled rear pan to the back, which we do need to do in order to go ahead and put our countertop in that's going to hold the sink and the stovetop. However, we can't do that yet. I got a little ahead of myself. So we had to slow down and we have to do this. Several months ago when we began the rebuilding of our trailer, we started out with glue lam strips. And what we did was we built this outer ring and we built this outer ring right here out of the pieces of wood and glue. What we have to do now, oh hey, Osha's here, good. What we have to do now is, I don't know if you can see this or not, we'll zoom in here just a little bit. We have to build this little rib right back here and this little rib right here. And I'll show you where those ribs are going to go next. Now our first rib of glue laminating was this outer piece right here. So what we're doing now is the ribs that will hold this panel. This panel holds our rear lights, and it also comes in just a little bit to form the edge of our hatch. We have the original arched piece of wood here that we're going to replace with glue laminating strips. So what we need to do is create our glue laminated strips that originally on the plan, and this is where I messed up. On the plan, they started up here and they came all the way down to our floor. Well, we've already installed our cabinet and I don't want to take the cabinet out because it won't work with that opening and it's a whole can of worms. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the glue laminated strips attached to our cabinet here and then just follow that same arch down to the floor. And that'll work out just fine. The only difference is going to be instead of our hatch opening up here somewhere in the middle, we're going to go ahead and slide our hatch to open along this edge here. With glue laminating in mind, let's go over to that part of the shop, get our wood strips and glue up this rib, the door rib, then this and that side ribs. Speaking of ribs, it's dinner time. Now that we have our formwork laid on the floor and all secured together, we need to install our little thin strips of wood into that shape, which will form our two beams that are needed on the back of our trailer. A lot of words in there, I know. What we're going to do is we're going to glue up our wood. And coming into the studio, of course, is our Oshadon Phillip. We're going to be doing glue laminated frames. Is that okay? Yeah, we're going to set them up in here. Does that work out good for you? We have our nice redwood pieces. Yeah. And then, oops, be careful, from our Oshadon. Are we done? We're in compliance? Okay. Now we're ready to glue up our wood. We're going to cut some of the excess off of these strips here because we don't need to have this extra 2 feet because it just takes up time, space, and glue. Now if you remember right from the last time, we just added a lot of glue to our strips. We don't have to work as fast this time because it's not 120 degrees outside, but we're still going to move it right along. And we just take our brush, might need to get another brush, kind of spread our glue so it's nice and even. I've glued up 3 of them that we can do half and half. So we're going to stick this half, the 3, in our form. Right. If I remember right, the trick is just to take it nice and easy. Kind of work it around. Let it flex. Okay. Hold that one up into place. These 2 into place. Now we're just going to temporarily clamp the 3 in place. Or not. Load them again, being careful not to break them or us. Push it down in the clamp so that these are all level across here. So the key to a good lamination is lots of glue and, as you can see, a lot of clamps. I'm not sure how much of the laminating process you saw here, but I had to kind of hurry and do it before it all set, and because the pieces of wood were going in all wacky ways. But as you can see here, we have it all nice and glued up. This is one of 5 that I'm going to have to make. The first 2 are for the edges to hold our aluminum paneling, and the other 3 will go on our actual lid that forms the kitchenette door. So for now, we're going to go ahead and let this one dry overnight, and then we're going to make another one tomorrow, and that'll dry overnight. And then we'll be able to get back to where we started, put these columns in, and get the main beam across that's going to hold our rear rolled pan. Here we are back with our ribs. Oh my goodness, can you imagine if these had meat on them? Ooh, that would be quite the meal. But we're not going to eat these. We are not termites. We are just trying to build a trailer. All right, so our next phase here. All right, so the next thing we need to do is connect our ribs here and here. But we cannot connect our ribs until we add our beam across here. Yes, that was not part of the original plan, but because we refused to remove our newly installed upper cabinets, we're gonna change it up just slightly from the original blueprint of this trailer. It'll work just the same or maybe even better. All right, so what we need to do is we are going to create this piece. I already created it, but I'm going to show you how I created it. This piece here is going to sit right here, and it's already at our angle of our wall. What that is going to do is this is where, when the metal comes down, it's going to attach to this part, and our hinges will attach to this beam. What we did was we took a 2x3 and we got our special angle here, which I'll show you that tool in a minute, and we cut it on our power saw. Now what we did to get this angle for our beam is we took a piece of 2x3, we put it right on top of our cabinet, right at the edge, and then with the pencil, we just marked that angle right there, and we're going to take off this top piece. Now I suppose we could have taken this piece and tried to line up this angle of our pencil mark on our table saw, adjusting the blade, but they make a really cool tool. I'm going to call it our angle finder. So what you do is you just take this piece here, we just put our piece flat to our table, and we lined up our edge here with our pencil mark, locked that into place, went over to our table saw blade, and then adjusted it that way. It's pretty cool. But with the blade sticking out this far, it was a little bit scary to run this thing. That, and we have our steel fence here. So the steel fence and our blade being so tall and so close, so we had to add on this little 1/2 inch of plywood to keep our blade and our fence apart. Now, don't try this at home, boys and girls, with your head this close to the blade. Oh, it's unplugged. I checked. Anyway, let's go ahead and cut our piece. Okay, as you can see, we already did cut our piece. So I wanted to show you this. We ran this piece through the blade here, being sure to keep our hands and our fingers away, and we pushed it with a piece of wood, which left us with this cool shape. Now this wood was pretty rough, so in order we didn't have to use a lot of sandpaper, we went over to our shaper. Now this tool is plugged in, so we won't get as close to the blade right there. We went ahead and we ran our piece of wood on all 3 sides through the shaper to make them nice and smooth, just like this. Now we're back over at the trailer and we need to cut into our wood paneling this little triangled spot right here and on the other side to match our beam. And we're going to use an oscillating tool for that. It's a loud tool, so we're going to use our hearing protection. So let's go ahead and get this beam to fit above our cabinet. All right, before we could oscillate, we had to do a little bit of sanding down here because there's a little bit of a lip here. But now that it's nice and smooth, we can get ready to oscillate. All right, let's get serious. Put our beam up against our walls here and mark our little angle that we need to cut out with our oscillator. Okay, so we've marked our line here, and now we're going to just cut out this part of our panel so that the beam will sit against this outer beam right here. I think we're nice and flat across here. It rubs nice and smooth with our ribs. Not with our ribs. It runs nice and smooth with the trailer's outside glue laminated frame. It runs nice and smooth across. It runs nice and smooth across our kitchenette cabinet on the front here and over there. So now we're going to go ahead, add glue to this beam, and secure it to our trailer inside of the cabinet with screws. The last step we need to do is to glue our beam to our top of the cabinet. So we're just going to wipe down our surface and we'll spread our glue, doing a beautiful circular pattern. Moving on. Okay. All right, let's get our beam. And that is set where we want it. Now we're just going to use our construction screws. And we've pre-drilled here already and added the screws. So now we just need to use our clamp to hold the beam down while we put in the construction screws. That'll help us so we don't get a gap between them. And that'll just hold it down temporarily. Oh yeah, that's nice and strong. A little bit of squeeze out. Okay, now that we have our beam secured down with glue and screws, we're going to go ahead and take our damp rag and wipe off the excess glue that's spewed out. Yes, we'll have to sand this front frame up just a little bit. That's okay. All right, now that our beam is installed, The next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach our rib beams, but darn it, we're out of time. Appreciate you stopping in with us this week at Fur in the Fan. Join us next week when we go ahead and finish our 2-edge frames, putting our beam across here for our rear rolled pan, maybe a little bit of woodwork up in this area here and here. A lot to look forward to. Thanks for joining us, and if you like this video, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed already, we'd love to have you as a subscriber. Hello to the new subscribers we just recently got. And this is Fur signing out. See you next week.